Boy Stix. Here we go.
Hello.
Yeah, we back. So yeah, man, like the idea that, almost whiteness is the lack of culture, it's I don't know, man. It's it's a weird
Well,
thing to think about.
so but help me understand this is you got to understand what whiteness is. Where did that word come from in association with a community? And the origins of it are in racism specifically. You know, that it was created to create this division of darker skinned people and lighter skinned people for that simple reason alone. I mean, for it was all related to financial and land and resources and all that stuff, but it just took a simple thing like skin color and created a group, and that just doesn't make. Of course, there's no culture associated with that. Like
Mm,
you know, you within those communities, you have Italian people or German or all these different types of people. Those are the real cultures that come with it. Those
yep.
communities that have been around for a long time and have their own, music and traditions and whatever else. So that's why I hate the term whiteness. I don't. I wish that wasn't what we were. Like, I mean, I don't really associate myself with that ideology, but I understand that's what I am in this society, because there's still all this structure here from that. So I accept what I am in society, even though I don't associate with what whiteness means and its roots.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Because when it comes to that idea, it's almost like um it's almost what I hate to say it, but what do you identify as? Do you identify as white? I would say that my genes have more of a story to say than that. I'm part Mexican. I got English roots, Mexican roots. Scottish, German. I got a lot of stuff in me, and part of me, when my grandparents were around, my grandma was super into to figuring out where we were from. And actually, my grandma and grandpa ended up tracing their history back to the same town in England. And so that was really crazy. And but then, that's where they lived, but that's as far as they could search back. And where did those people from England come from? And people in England, like, yeah, I live in California, but I'm from my genes are from everywhere. So the same
Right.
thing could be said for those people in England as well. So it's an interesting topic, man. I think what you just said, man, the whiteness. Yeah, when I think about it, I talk about this with Castro sometimes. It's like he's like, man, white people always fuck up food. I started laughing, man. He said, tell me what white food tastes, what white food tastes good,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And I was like, man, we got some stuff, but like, he's like, no, what is the heritage? I said, man, it's a lot of
Well,
stews, it's a lot of potatoes and meat.
that's the things because and those are probably more linked to like English food or like whatever, specific cultures, right? Um, and that's I kind of want to correct something I said earlier. Like, I wouldn't say whiteness doesn't have a culture associated with it. It's like it's actually the negative. It's all negative. What whiteness is.
Yeah.
It's all that other stuff that's like that I value is like whatever the if it's an English your English background and whatever comes with that, or the fact that you're just born in California and you have that culture. Um, your family specific, like things that they have, their traditions and stuff like that. But whiteness is like, as a culture, is actually like mostly it's all the racism, it's all the bad stuff. Because that's what the reason the word was even created. That's the
Mm.
reason it was even a thing. was
Who
to
who,
create
who created
authenticity.
that term? Like, or when was it created?
I need to look at that more like specific, specific people and time. But I mean, it was during the colonization periods of um, all those countries started colonizing, which would be like Spain and Portugal and England and Belgium and all that stuff. Um, Sometime during all that,
Mm,
14, 1500s, something, I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, so I guess what I would say the majority of the modern day culture in popping specifically uh is not of the origin, right? So you have a lot of people, it's global. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing in the sense that this thing that we do basically with not much money associated with it was able to transcend borders, transcend ethnicity, race, socioeconomic status, and like for what? Like there's no like monetary motive to it. So it's almost like the culture is partly outcasts, is made of outcasts or people that are almost um yeah, bound by they're like they're on the outside of society. They're fringe. We're fringe people. And that's kind of, I think, what unites us is our weird kind of interests in like the way we nerd out on things or the way that we listen to music and the way we want to move. So, uh, yeah, man, like, so for all the people that are now part of the culture, like, what do we do to, you know, pay homage and also keep positive and keep moving forward.
Um, for me, yeah, just yeah, paying homage is like acknowledging the roots, um, trying to give back to those communities.
Mm,
Because the thing is, these people of color and especially Black people are still being oppressed in a lot of ways, and things like gentrification are happening all the time. And I brought this up in one post on Facebook where it's like a lot of the OGs are struggling, you know, and there's various reasons for that. It's not, but the main stuff is like linked to this systemic problem. They just have a harder time in general to be successful in this society. And so like, anything we can do to like try to give back and try to bring them back in, like help them teach, like say take what Leo's doing with Kearney. He is helping assist him with private lessons because Kearney's like older and he doesn't know the technology that well, and maybe doesn't communicate with people as easily online or whatever. And so little things like that. It could be like, obviously there's like financial things, potentially, but even just like, asking them if they want to judge or do a panel discussion, or just talking to them, reaching out to them first and foremost,
yeah.
um, very basic level, just acknowledging and being like, this is where this came from. And when you teach a class, mention that this is, an African American art form and a little bit of the history, and then teach your class. Keep that in people's minds that this is not just a fun thing to do, because it is, of course, but like it has this history, it has this lineage, and it has um, these people that need to be acknowledged.
Yeah, yeah. So how can people get in contact with like people like Leo or, people that are connected with the OGs and can set stuff up? This might be a good place to
Yeah,
drop that.
yeah, yeah. Leo has been helping Kearney a lot, so definitely if like Kearney is someone that people want to reach out to.
Kearney
And
Myers.
yeah, Kearney Mayers from the Black Messengers.
Yep.
Um, Leo would be a good person to contact. I can help people get in touch with various OGs from the Bay. I'll let you know like uh, sometimes I want to ask them first and be like, hey, this person wants to call you about this. Is it cool? Some are more private that way. It's whatever it is. Um, but I'm definitely down to help anybody connect with these guys. Money B's easily accessible. Um, there's a bunch of other people too. Like anyone that you see come across, um, just reach out to us here in the Bay and see if we can't help you.
Yeah. So also that's like it's a good time to connect to people through whether it's, phone or the
Hmm.
internet in some way. Because honestly, even the people that have jobs have time right now. So uh this is a good time to connect with people. That's partly why I'm doing this as well, just to get information out there, get people connected to the people I'm connected to, and then
Yeah,
they can work their way around. So that's great, man. So Leo's one, Money B is another. You yourself, Bryce. So Fish Sauce Funk on Instagram, and also this is Stix underscore, right?
yeah.
Is it Stix underscore Playboy Inc.
Playboys Inc. Yeah,
Playboy. Yeah. So yeah, man, that's great. And Surf is another guy that's been chilling. He's out in Sac now, I believe. I
yeah,
believe. So he's around like Money B as well, Kearney.
yeah. Those guys are out in SAC, and that was kind of something I wanted to say earlier too, like with the whole gentrification thing. Like people are moving out to cheaper areas to live, and so you have a lot of OGs out there now in Sacramento. But like some are just fine. It's no big deal. But like, I mean, it's not a big deal uh, in a sense. But like, just acknowledging that and knowing that this stuff's still going on, and that like, um, all this stuff we're talking about racism and culture and all this stuff. It's still here.
Yeah.
This isn't some way distant stuff.
Yeah, and
Here,
also gentrification is huge in every major city.
yeah, for sure.
And that's something where it may not seem like it. The thing is, it's sometimes slow and it's sometimes quick, but somebody comes in and changes the rent, and the place where you grew up or the place where you got all your family and friends, now you gotta move out. And
Yeah.
uh, and that doesn't mean that everybody moves together. So it's kind of breaking up a lot of communities. I
Hmm.
was talking to Intricate a little bit about it too, but the turf scene, and how that's been dispersed, man. You got a younger generation that's maybe not got a rent controlled spot, or so they're dispersed, man. So the turf scene is kind of spread out, and it's hard to recreate the same thing that really put fire to a lot of this culture, like really built it up.
Yeah, for sure. It's sad. It's kind of just a reality. Like you said, it's happening everywhere. The Bay's extra tough because it's just a lot of people want to live here. So if you got money, you can move in. That's basically all it takes, right?
Yeah.
And so it's tough. So it's keeping that in mind too when we're having these discussions and we're talking about um, how we want to help people. And my whole thing is just like reach out and talk to these guys. What you mentioned in another video you did is that we're in this time where we still can access and talk to these guys. They're still around. And I think it's really important. Like, I'm just sharing with you what I've heard, but to talk to these guys about their specific stories is just an amazing thing to be able to do. And so
Yeah.
I definitely say reach out to them, and get their perspectives. You're going to get different ideologies and different things. Some OGs are easier to talk to, some are not. Some are like extra helpful, some are hard to get a hold of. It's just the way it is. They're all different people, but they're still here.
Yeah.
Making that effort and actually talking to them is like really rewarding. I'm just gonna say that to anybody. I really encourage it.
Super rewarding, man. If you sense any authenticity in my dance, is probably from them, you know, like it's from seeking out the knowledge and also the struggle of seeking out the knowledge. A lot of the new generation and the social media and the Google and the YouTube, it's like if the information isn't at one click, it's like, well, I guess I'm not gonna get that, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think it's part of the journey, man. Like read stories like Marco Polo, or you know, read stories of these adventurers that were uncovering treasures. Like these are our modern day treasures, especially for this dance form that we do. Um, Man, the wisdom. I think also this speaks to a broader issue that I've thought about for a long time, because my mom, she's a social worker, but she works with the elderly at like retirement facilities. So um, the connection that the younger generation has with the elderly is very little. And the perspective that these people can share is so dope. It's so enlightening. Um, but I also understand that it's so different and hard to accept sometimes, but you have to understand the context of their perspective.
Right.
And I think that is why it's so important to go meet these people in person, or at least connect with them personally via technology.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all that stuff applies, you know, like understanding why they're thinking the way they're thinking. You know, you might not agree with it sometimes, but then at the same time, you got to respect that they've been around on this earth for a long time. They've seen a lot of shit, and they got some, you know, they look at you, and I do this, I'm starting to do this now. I look at these young kids coming up, and I'm not that old, but even just being, you know, a generation apart, you hear what they're saying, and you're like, man, you just don't know. You know, like
You just don't
you,
know.
you see, you know, the experience is a huge thing, you know. So like you got to respect these people for their experiences in life. And like I
Yeah.
said, even if they say some things you don't agree with, they're gonna have some gems of knowledge for you regardless.
Yeah.
So
There was a question that says, why do you think there is a disconnect? I mean, personally, I think there's a disconnect both in both directions. It's not just the youth that is not like, even people like myself, like you know, people under 40 connecting with people that are older. Until your parents are old, right? And then you can start to see older people in a new light because you're directly connected to it. But
mhm.
even before that, when you're a youth and your parents are in their 40s or something, or 30s, the connection goes both ways. So the ability to understand someone else's experience is directly related to the amount of experience you have. So uh, your ability to empathize with somebody is just also depending on how open-minded you are. And the older generation in some ways is closed-minded to the new ways, and
Mhm.
the younger generation is also closed off and has no idea of the old ways. So I
Yeah,
think the disconnect happens both ways.
yeah. And that's where it really just takes conversation. You know, it really takes like, you know, just take the time to talk to this person. And again, you might not get anything out of it, but the chances are you're gonna get something out of it. And
Yeah.
especially with these guys in this dance, like trust me, you're gonna get something out of it. Some big stuff.
Yeah, and the thing with these, like when it comes to OGs, I love the man. There's so many times like it'll be like 2 years later, and the conversations are like burned into my memory, you know. And 2 years
Uh-huh.
later, like it'll dawn on me, like, damn, dude, what? Like it just like the lesson hit me all of a sudden, and I'm like, damn, I can't believe it took that long. But you know, the thing is, when you talk with older people, uh, it may make sense as you age as well. You'll
Mhm.
start to get the gems will start to uncover themselves. So that's why just having the conversation is enough.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, you've been there too when you hit a certain age and you're like, damn, my mom was right about that or whatever. You know, like, you know, you don't want to hear it as a kid, but but those seeds, planting those seeds, and then you have that appreciation for that person for telling you that you get it now, like, um, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. The conversation needs to be had regardless. It's super important.
Yeah. Okay. There's one last thing, bro. I wanted to ask you because I browsed through the Otis interview. So if y'all haven't checked that out, Otis Funkmeyer, check that interview out with Bryce. But you had mentioned that you hadn't done an interview with John Murphy yet,
Right.
and this was 2018. Did you get a chance to do it?
No, still working on it.
I'm still working on it. Damn it. Oh man. So
I
when it
mean,
comes to
I've talked to him a lot. So I
yeah.
mean, if there's something specific you're wondering, like I might be able to answer it. But um, one thing I want to say about him that I mean, there's a lot of things about him. He was super influential dancer in the community, but like one of his biggest contributions was the slot, as far as like movement wise, like what people are doing today. And I really want to like keep stressing this because this is one of those moves where like there's a lot of moves we argue about in this dance, where like where they came from, who made it up, what the name of it is, and all this stuff, right? But this is one that I truly believe, based on a lot of reasons, that this this move that we've called the Fresno so much in this dance is really the slot. And that's what we should be calling it now, and giving John his credit for it. Because when you look at, like, I've made posts about this, but I'll just go through it real quick. The EBs called the Fresno, it was a routine initially, right? And they said, let's do the Fresno. And it was a whole routine. It wasn't a move. Now that move was part of the routine, the side to side with the arms out, boom, boom.
Yeah.
It was part of the Fresno routine. Sometime, probably when they started teaching more, they started calling it the Fresno move. I don't know the whole history of that. Now knowing that the Black Messengers, John created that move, and they all back it up. And now so many people talk about, yeah, John was doing that move. I've talked to so many OGs. They attribute that movement to John. And it's the same movement. He doesn't always put his arm like this, but he might do it like this, but it's side to side. It's the posing side to side, right? Randy from the Black Messengers named it the slot. He gave a lot of the names for the moves they did. And they have a picture of them doing it in '74 in a club, or I forget what it was called. And they're all doing it, boom, in a routine like this. And I'm just like, okay, we gotta correct this. And to think about that. This is why it's so important. I was trying to catch Money B's Art of Popping workshop he did, right?
Hmm.
Turns out I was a day late. It was actually Poppin' Pete. Pete's teaching the Fresno, right? The boom, boom,
Yeah.
right? Ever since I started the dance, that's been that's like your first popping move you learn. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I see it so much nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Everybody teaches that. So I'm sitting there going, if you're going to say that this is the foundational popping move, this is the move you learn first, but it came from Boogaloo, really, out of Oakland, like that's a huge thing to like understand when you're talking about this connection between the origins of this dance. This
Yeah.
move is still being taught today by everybody, these top poppers and all this stuff, but it really came from John Murphy, from the Black Messengers.
All right, bro. So we got to start campaigning now.
Seriously.
There's got to be a campaign. So this is something, um, so I didn't know it was 1974. So like when I teach a class, I'll go, okay, this is called by the Electric Boogaloo the Fresno, but in the Bay Area in Oakland they call it the slot. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I show that, but I did not know the time period because I never dived that deep into it. But now that
Sure.
we have a distinct time reference, right? We can start to shift and collectively adopt it. So the campaign is just beginning I'm for the adoption.
We need like a hashtag.
Yo, yo, we could make it the slot challenge. We could do it.
Something, you know. Oh, and one other thing, you might hear like this timing's different, whatever. It don't matter, bro. You can hit that side to side on the one, on the two, on the three, whatever you feel. It doesn't matter. It's all about the movement. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So
See, I think it's important. See, when it comes to the opposing side, right? Now, it's been taught that way for years. It was adopted by the culture as that. But now that we've traced it back to its origin, we know different. So we can start to change the word. But when it comes to the EBs and preserving their story and their importance, it doesn't, I think it's important to realize that the role they played is not in the words. It's not in like owning something. Their role in history is super important. And it's not for them to get defensive about like all of a sudden we're calling it something else that their story's forgotten. Like nobody's gonna ever forget the electric boogaloo's, you know?
right.
Like they played a very important part in this whole story. So yeah, man, I think that's something I hope they can understand as well. It's not like, oh, I want to wage war. It's no,
Right.
it's like I'm just trying to get the history, and you guys got your own stuff, and
Yeah.
we'll pay homage to that too.
Yeah, it's not to take away from this isn't to take away from them. It's to give to the origins of it. It's to really acknowledge like where this thing came from, you know. And this is based on a lot of it. Like some moves, like I said, we'll still kind of argue about, and you never really know. But there's so much, evidence or whatever you want to call it for this being the case, that I really, really want to push this one, and still giving the EBs credit for spreading the movement around the world and influencing as many people as they did with it. It's great, and I think a lot of the Oakland and Bay Area OGs will give the EBs credit for what they did as far as spreading and their influence and all that. But
Yeah.
it's more like this creation stuff where that's where it's always an issue.
Yeah. I haven't really talked to anybody from the EBs about this. I would love to talk with them about it as well. But when I was in China and teaching and stuff, and man, it's part of maybe you know more about this story but there's an origin story to who created what, right? So the idea that the EBs created it, part of me like wants to leave a benefit of the doubt because when we started getting word of the creation story, it was kind of like through Asia and like China and Japan, and that's where they traveled and were teaching a lot. And how much is lost in translation? That's my benefit of the doubt, where it was like, oh, we started this, well, or we did a move like this, became to like an organizer going, let's pump this up. And I think he said he created it, like it really, like this is the creator. And you're like, now your event's popping. Like, like, I wouldn't put it past uh, a promoter to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I see you there, and I mean, I would say that it would depend on what the EBs have said otherwise. But the thing is, we've had many conversations, um, especially in those forums, with EB members where that's not been the case.
Mm,
They didn't say that, and they said this is what we created. It was very specific.
mm,
So I mean, you got to look at what's been said over the years, and you got to talk to a lot of people too. I think this is always interesting because when I was coming up, um, these are the stories I was hearing, and there's a lot of other people even before me that would say, the same thing. They're like, yeah, this is what they would say. They created this move, and they did, you
And
know.
it's documented.
Um, there are there's stuff out there of them saying like, I've created this. Yeah, yeah. You have like old videos, or you have even like in forums, they might be writing it down. But I mean, there's videos of like Sam. I mean, let's look at Sam. Okay, we're talking about original electronic boogaloo lockers
Hmm.
members,
Hmm.
right? So whatever Pete's getting, he's getting from Sam, right? So let's go to Sam. Let's listen to what he's saying. Sam says they literally created these 14 styles. Okay, I mean, there's a video of that. I know you've seen it.
Hmm.
It's like this, and Creepin's in there too, right? Which is a move that's super old in Oakland. Oh my God, Creepin was like one of the first things they did.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I'm like, man, and nobody says he created it. I mean,
yeah.
we can't, but I've been there. Like my mind's gone back and forth on this a lot too over the years, and I've, I've been looking at it from all sides, asking these similar questions, but certain things like that we just can't ignore.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I ask these questions partly because I want people to hear your story, and hear this perspective, and also like be able to look into it deeper as far as the evidence-based stuff that we have, because uh, the issue gets when we go in he said, she said type stuff, and but there is real evidence for a lot of this stuff. So it's up to you to look into it and really understand the story behind it. And just to let you know that the narrative that has been pushed for a long time, there's a lot of motives behind it, as far as monetary motives and all that sort of stuff too. So you got to look at that and factor it all in. When it first started coming out, it was more like people like us were like conspiracy theorists,
Oh man, people before me, like I got in at a good time. Like
Yeah.
everybody that's trying to fight for the Bay Area history before me, it's just like, Dana, Fazo, Pop Tart and Plick Plock a little later, like, and then you had like Joe Go was jumping in, and all these, they would get laughed at in these forums, or like heckled, or like whatever you want to call it. Um, and even in person though too, like, threats and things like that. Like, I mean, we really get into it when you start talking to people who are around at that time. You really get to understand what was going on. I definitely recommend you do that. Talk to people that were around in the late '90s, early 2000s, and talking about history stuff, and see what they have to say.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. And it's the resources we have now are far beyond what's ever been available before. The information that we have, the people we have contact with, back when, even when you were starting, even when I was starting in 2009, it was like there wasn't, you had to dig for that information. And um general narrative, Stix left. But yeah, the popular narrative was was that, you know, that of the EBs. So yeah, there you are. But yeah, the narrative, like, I think has affected so many people throughout the years, as far as the imposed, like, people imposing a narrative on everybody. Like, you have to do it this way, you should do it this way. If you don't do it that way, then you're not doing it at all. And it's really sad that it drew a lot of people away from the scene, and kind of like, um, yeah, I mean, I walked into a drama storm when I first started. 2009 was like the height of like Boogaloo G style, you know. And
Yeah.
Slick Dog was somebody that validated the story of the Bay, So
Hmm.
So Slick Dog for that. And he put a lot of people on. And now there's a lot of people, in this culture that, we all have personal issues and we all have stuff that we work through. And yeah, man, it's important to know that people are flawed in general. Like,
True.
um, and that's a big part of the history. So, the human history. So, when
Hmm.
you talk about stories and stuff like that, always take it with a grain of salt too. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's why cross-referencing is super important. That's why, man, that's why what you do is super, super dope. And that's why I wanted to have you on, man, because to me, that's like you're one of the people that is so active in cross-referencing. And there's other people too, but it's just yeah, man, you're like the source for me for Bay Area. And also like another person I want to get talking to is Gizmo. Um, and I want you two to talk. That's I want to have y'all two talk, and I want to be there just like popcorn. Like yo, I'm telling you, you can make an event out of that.
That would be
Because
interesting. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot of LA history too that I have no idea about. So, I mean,
yeah, no, no. I mean, I was talking to Junior Boogaloo recently, and man, that guy has so much history, bro. So much, like from the Bay and LA,
mhm.
and it's like when he was telling me the stories, dude, I felt like I was in a movie. He would talk about how he was in the like he was in the projects in the Mission District, and like this was like 76 or something like that, 77. He was like 8 years old or something.
Mhm.
Man, he would start to really paint the picture of like when he first saw two poppers and like they weren't even calling it popping then. And he starts to talk about how different ethnicities were, the crews were different ethnicities and they would be on the street corners, and like
Mhm.
battling was a real thing. And like if you lost, like yo, you could get beat up too. It's like it was a real street mentality back then in the
Yeah.
Bay.
Yeah. Money B's good to talk to you about that kind of stuff too. Just like the way he tells stories, you just feel like you're there, and it's just amazing. It's like, damn, that's hella epic. These battles that pop off, or like even just the first time you see someone and what their impression was.
Yeah.
Like that. And so Junior, I remember seeing an interview he did, where he was talking about that kind of stuff, and seeing the Samoan dancers, because that was his,
Yep.
uh, obviously his background. So, and they were a huge factor, in the late '70s in San
Yeah.
Jose and San Francisco and LA area.
Heckle and
Cartoon.
Jekyll. Those guys, yeah. The Samoan Heckle and Jekyll. Yeah, man. The Booyah Tribe,
Blue
LA.
City Shredders.
Yeah, man.
Why do you think they call themselves Shredders?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and Junior was telling me about that. Like, he's like, you gotta talk to them. And I was
I
like,
know, I want to talk to them bad.
yeah, man. He was like, you got to talk to them. Hopefully I can, uh, yeah, hopefully we can make some connections, man. But those guys are definitely a beacon of like a huge, crucial migration between Bay and LA and stuff
Mhm.
being transferred. So it would be really cool to talk to them. Um, yeah, man. Heckle Jekyll and Junior. Yeah, it's interesting, man. All this stuff, it's still there's still so much to be discovered, right?
Yep, there
Yep.
is, man. It's crazy. There were so many dancers back then. It's just like so many stories. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Yeah. So okay, so what do you see? What do you see in the next few years for yourself? What are your goals, man? What do you want to do with this thing?
I mean, I want to continue doing this research. I think my big thing now is like getting this stuff documented while they're still around. you know, because like you never know what's gonna happen. You never promise tomorrow, and some of these guys are getting pretty old, and I just want to make sure that their stories and their legacy lives on, and that they're able to connect with the community if they want to, or like just get their acknowledgement at the very least, you know. So I'm really just trying to get as many people as I can, talk to as many guys as I can. Starting with the old, I'm mostly focused on Oakland, just because that's like the oldest generation. But like I've talked to people from a lot of people from San Jose, San Francisco, Richmond, but mostly the Bay Area is what I'm focused on. Um, but I love it all. You know, I want someone in LA to do all that stuff too. So
Yeah, man, for real. Like LA is another one, man. Yeah, I think Gizmo is the man for that, you know, like as far as really being in South Central and talking to the most guys, this guy's got the collective history, you know. I get bits and pieces, but that guy is the beacon, I think, you know. He'll tell you from Joe down the street to like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all the way up. So, yeah, man. So I think to end on this, man, what would you recommend for like the youngsters coming up? You know, we don't want to overburden them with politics and definitions and how do you see a good way to go about introducing people into the culture without overburdening them?
Hmm. Um, I think just highlighting all the positive aspects, like and acknowledging the issues too. I think it's important. Like, I think they need to know that there's like, whatever the controversies may be, and that there's some issues, and that's just how it is. Like, if you're gonna be part of this family, you gotta deal with it. Like
You
if
gotta
you
know
really
about
want to,
this. You gotta
yeah.
know.
Hey, I don't want to give them, to be too nice to them in a sense. It's just like, there's so many people in here anyway. It's like, hey, if you really want to learn this culture, you gotta learn everything about it. You gotta take everything that comes with it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. That's cool. But
Yeah,
you know,
that's
but
what's
you know, but at the same time, highlighting like all the positives, because it's a beautiful thing. At the same time, it's not just all this politics and whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I think for sure. When I give people kind of the squinty eye when they start to ask questions. I give them like the little like, you sure you want to go? You
yeah, yeah,
on a rabbit hole. We could go there if you want, but I'm gonna let you know right now. And then so usually there's a weeding out of like, okay, let me put people through these little like phases of like you get to earn that, like,
yeah,
okay, if you can accomplish this skill, then I can start to say, okay, they're really about it. But I don't want to like initially scare them off,
sure,
but
sure.
like just kind of, like let's express ourselves and let's learn some cool shit and listen to some dope music, and then
Mm,
yeah, when they start to ask questions, then
right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And there's a lot of people that just want to like, just have fun and whatever. And I teach people all kinds of moves. I have no problem doing that. It's like fun. But yeah, when people start to get more into it and be like, oh, now I want to like come to the events and learn more about the culture, like, yeah, that's when you get into it.
That's when you get adopted. That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah, man. Hey, brother, thank you for your time, man. And it's always good catching up with you, bro.
for sure, man. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude. I hope to see you again soon.
yeah, man. This will end quick, bro. I know it. I hope we can get the Oakland reunion uh by by that time. I think that would be a great time to meet up with everybody.
That would be awesome, man. We'll see if it happens this year, but
I'm
man,
hoping. I'm
yeah,
crossing my fingers, bro.
me too, me too.
Anyways, bro, we'll keep in contact. I'll reach out to you soon, brother.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, much love,
Sounds
man.
good, man.
See
Peace.
you guys.